want to bring you. The judge, we have just learned, has canceled, Michael, the resentencing of the Menedez brothers. That hearing, Lyle and Eric, has been canceled.
Yeah, we know the day started with the defense seeking to postpone the hearing because they wanted them to look at this report that was done by the parole board, commissioned by the governor of the state. From what I heard in terms of the arguments and what's been reported to us, is that might not be very favorable to these guys, and maybe the judge found out, and he said what he was doing was connecting with the governor's office to find out if it can be used in this hearing. Maybe he found out it can be, and then until he gets it, he postponed the hearing. Not sure yet.
And that would make sense, right, if it's available and can be used. Now, the other part of that I just have to mention is, you know, the district attorney, Nathan Hochman, had a press conference earlier today, and then after that, Geragos got so upset in court about what he had to say and said he thought he seemed to be biased. So he's now filed a motion, Geragos has, who represents the Menedez brothers, to say D.A. Hochman is biased. He needs to be removed from this case.
Yeah, it's not the first time he's made that claim as well. He claimed that he was sort of freezing the family out, or someone in his employ was freezing the family out of information and wanted to get him kicked off the case. But now he's actually going to file a motion. And if I'm not correct, I think our own Matt Johnson mentioned that there was some suggestion by Geragos that maybe he had gone to school with the boys.
Yes.
And again, I don't know the details on that, but that could be an issue.
Yeah, well, let's give some behind the scenes. You and I both looked at each other as Matt said that and said, really? Like, I had no idea that he had allegedly gone to school with the two brothers, but I do think that is an interesting piece to know. And from what I understood, he also said that he lived a mile from them. Did I get that part right? I think that was on this case. We're covering so many, but in any event, a lot going on in this case. And again, the breaking news that the judge has canceled the resentencing hearing for the Menedez brothers. We don't know if it'll be rescheduled. We don't know if it's for that report. We don't know.
But here's what we are learning. There has been a hearing scheduled for the removal of Hochman, and that's set to go on May 9th.
Wow.
So maybe he wants to hear that before he continues on with the resentencing hearing. That could be a possibility as well. So again, on May 9th, they're now set to hear that motion filed by Mark Geragos to remove Nathan Hochman from the case.
Wow. I mean, you've got zealous advocates on both sides. A lot of people feel that it's unfair that the previous district attorney did feel that the resentencing was proper, that he was in support of them being resentenced, in fact, and then the election happened and this DA says, no, we don't, I don't support the resentencing because they hadn't shown remorse. Let's bring back in Michael Jaffer. Weigh in, Michael, and we've reported everything we know at this moment. What are your thoughts?
I think Geragos is upset about the fact, my 2 cents is that he's probably upset about the fact that Nathan Hochman can't even ask to postpone or withdraw the resentencing motion. By California law, once it's filed by any DA, then it becomes the judge's decision and only the judge's decision. And I think Geragos is upset at the fact that he pretty much is sure that Nathan Hochman is doing a political thing to show his constituents that, hey, you know what, I don't want this any more than anybody else does, because he ran on a campaign of, you know, law and order, and part of his platform was, this is in line with his brand, to oppose the Menedez withdrawal. But it's really black and white that he cannot try to cancel or stop this process. It's up to the judge. I think Geragos is upset about that, and I think he's doing a good job by shedding light on what he thinks is biased. But it's okay for him to be biased. He's allowed to be biased. He's not a judge. He's not a jury. He's supposed to be biased. But I think this is just a dogfight between Geragos and Hochman. I think it's going to be very interesting and entertaining.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he has a right to express an opinion, and what he's done up to this point, Michael, is he's had a number of press conferences where he's laid out his reasons why. And I think the number one he points to is the fact that he doesn't feel they've been rehabilitated, which he thinks is an important part of this resentencing process. You know, you look at what they've done in jail, various things that they've been involved in to improve themselves and others, but also this idea that they've been rehabilitated. He doesn't believe they have been. Now, again, this is not about relitigating the case. There's a guilty verdict that's going to stand. It's about a resentencing. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he mentioned the Netflix documentary. He mentioned social media in the lead up to this. He obviously hates the fact that these guys are even getting a fair shake or even a shot at getting out. He has mentioned that there are many people in jail for the same crime or even a lesser crime, and they don't even have the chance to get out of jail, and he hates that. He disputes that, and he's not supposed to be unfair. He's not supposed to be impartial. He's supposed to be biased. That's what he's elected to do, is to be biased. So he has an opinion. He's going to fight like a dog to keep these guys in jail. He does not want the verdict or the sentence to be disturbed. He does not want it. He's allowed to have that opinion. He's going to fight like tooth and nail to do that, just like Geragos is fighting on the other side.
Well, and I can tell you something we've learned about the hearing on May 9th. This just in, that hearing is not only on the motion to recuse the DA that was filed by Geragos, who represents the brothers, but also for the court to determine whether or not that report is admissible. So now it makes sense to put both of those together. Makes perfect sense to me by the court. Let's talk, though, about the brutality of this crime. And the reason I want to do that is to go back to the original what happened in this case, because Michael said earlier, and I agree, the resentencing isn't about what happened during the course of the crime, but rather how they've done after. But I think you can't help but look back, Michael Jafer, at the heinous nature of the crime. We only have about 20 seconds left.
It's absolutely a part of it. I completely agree with you. It's a part of it that needs to be considered. If that can't be considered, what can be? Just what they did after the fact. To know what they did after the fact and the value of it, you have to know what they did before the fact and what they're trying to atone for.
And they plan to show some of that information. They've given notice that we're going to show some of those photos and stuff.
And it was a brutal, brutal killing
ugly
of their own mother and father, and just awful circumstances.